Started to question my own judgment and felt very off in my life and especially my romantic life. I had dated a series of men who were somewhat consistent in their bad behavior. You know, those men were typically like controlling and pretty selfish and jealous, just like the betrayal, the lying, the deceit, like, you know, the questioning reality. I was kind of this always happy, always pleasant, funny, fun girlfriend who didn't ask for much and couldn't figure out why I was being mistreated. Found myself losing my power in those relationships over time, too easily appeased by words and not actions. And I was quite comfortable giving everything and taking nothing. They're questioning myself. And like, here I am, a lawyer and a mother of three and like pretty accomplished, thinking like, am I being duped here? It was like a recipe to be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Should I just become a nun instead? When you're not looking, things present itself. There's a different type of man who's striking comparison between these two. Like there have been a bunch of men that I've met that are like the prior, and they make me recoil. And you're right, like I stopped being attracted to that. There was no immediate like flutter and freak out and attraction and like into the night texting about when will I see you again? I just can't wait. Like none of that happened, which is kind of the pattern that I was used to. Like it's so slow and it's so patient and it's so different. It's really different. I think he's still like evaluating, and as he should be. Like he doesn't know exactly everything yet. And I think like that's so wise and mature. And you know, why do we have to decide on the second or third date that this is the one? And I found like that's silly. So there's just this general like openness and interest and exploration without any of the really kind of crazy headspace. I like this autonomy. I like this freedom. I like the trust. And for so long, I've pushed down my emotions to the point where like they are so contained and so not able to be felt. And I'm way more emotional and I'm open and vulnerable. And true to myself now. I'm getting comfortable saying no and stopping with the incessant people pleasing and overextending myself. And I also have this like strange sense of calmness about whether the relationship lasts or not. So it feels just so different, so wildly different. I'm in such a good place. And if it ended tomorrow, I'm going to be still in such a good place.
Okay, we are live. Yeah, hello, Rachel. Welcome.
Hi there. How are you? Nice to see your faces again.
Yeah, lovely to see you too.
Yeah, you're absolutely glowing. It's beautiful. Nice to see.
Yeah, thank you for gracing us with your radiance today. I really feel that actually, and nice that we got a little doggy in the background. Always a nice touch as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Oh well, thank you for doing this. This is going to be very inspirational for a lot of the women who are watching, and yeah, really were or are probably where you were. And I guess with that said, what I'd love to just sort of open up with and ask you is really where you were at before we started doing the work together. Some of the patterns that maybe you were experiencing or were stuck in, frustrated by. And yeah, all of that stuff. What was going on for you at that time?
So I joined LBL when I started to question my own kind of judgment and felt very off in my life and especially my romantic life. I had dated a series of men who were somewhat consistent in their bad behavior, and I wasn't sure whether I was gravitating towards that or I wasn't seeing things or not trusting my intuition, and called Beth. And she made me, like, after hearing me ramble on, like, meditate and take a deep breath and just say, like, okay, I think we can help you. But those relationships were pretty surface level. I think I'm pretty stoic in life and never really complain or ask for much. And so I was kind of this, like, always happy, always pleasant, funny, fun girlfriend who didn't ask for much and couldn't figure out why I was being mistreated, when it was like, you know, in my mind, like so easy to treat me well because I wasn't asking for anything and I wasn't, you know, too needy or demanding. And, you know, on reflection, I think those relationships were, there was like a massive game of chase at the beginning. And I think, those men were typically like controlling and pretty selfish and jealous and kind of like exhibited a lot of the toxic male traits. Like it was never enough time that I could give them. And, I found myself losing my power in those relationships over time and trying to like reset, trying to fix it. And I was too easily appeased by words and not actions in those relationships. I was taking physical intimacy as a sign of love, like everything's right if we're physically intimate. And I was quite comfortable like giving everything and taking nothing. And I felt like that was like, I was okay with that. And, there's obviously a lot wrong with what I just said. And like LBL really helped me figure those things out and get more introspective and yeah.
One of the big ones you touched on there, and as you said it out loud, I saw in your face like you heard yourself, I think, where it was, I'm not expecting much, so why, and it's the opposite thinking, right? Of if I lower my standards, if I don't ask for too much, then surely why isn't it just going to be there? And if I raise my standards, then surely I'm going to push more people away. But it's as you discovered.
Yeah. And really my thing was that I date men who typically cheat on me. And so it's like, that just like the betrayal, the lying, the deceit, like, the questioning reality, a little of that gaslighting. And, it was like a recipe to be like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Should I just become a nun instead? But I called death.
Yeah. And so of all of that, what was the most painful thing, do you think, about all of that for you, Rachel? Coming in, those patterns being stuck, just the frustration. Yeah. What do you think was the worst thing about that for you?
Yeah, I mean, it just it made me somebody who I wasn't. Like I touched on this during the course that like I became a little more anxious. I had to constantly be thinking about whether there was messaging and why phones were always going dead and like big apologies in the morning. Somebody spilled a drink on my phone and I had to sit there questioning myself. And like, here I am, a lawyer and a mother of 3 and like pretty accomplished, and sit on a bunch of charitable boards thinking like, like, am I being duped here? Or my marriage ended because of an affair. So I was always worried that I was carrying that baggage forward into my relationships, and lo and behold, I really wasn't. And that was the hardest part, is like, here I am, like a friendly, outgoing, like, by most standards, like successful woman, being like kind of like duped by these situations over and over again. That was like, it was really like it made me feel bad about myself and my judgment.
But you took that next brave step. We had a talk, and you took that next brave step and came into the program, worked with Sharif and I, and so you came out of that place, like you said, of just like, what is this mismatch between my life with my career, my family, and my intimate emotional life? And so what were the like key shifts, do you think, that you made in LBL to start to turn that around? Because we're going to get to the juicy parts a bit later. But what do you think, like reflecting now on where you are now, what were the key shifts that you met that happened for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. Really, each week of the program, I learned something really fundamentally huge. And I sound like a car salesman right now, but like it was everybody in my private life, like, getting comfortable saying no and stopping with the incessant people pleasing and overextending myself, like feeling. And maybe I'm not saying no as much as I should now, but it's getting better. And I'm feeling in my body when I'm saying yes, and I know I should be saying no. And, I then, I'm hyper aware of it now.
That's huge.
Yeah. And really fundamentally, I think the clarity statement is what really got me as healed as I am. And I'm not perfectly healed. We can talk about that too, but like recognizing really what I want in somebody, and like the attributes, and how like focusing on that, like compassion and gratitude and honesty and, you know, like real morals and ethics. Like if you concentrate on that, you really won't be in a relationship with any of the men that I described. Like they really weren't holding those attributes. And so that really has steered me into the right direction. And then, you know, this silly concept of the maybe person is really was, you know, a lot of women I know think that there aren't good men out there, but I think they're not seeing them because there's a different type of man who's like, you know, very present and in your face and chasing you down and intense. And, you know, you certainly feel like the obvious attraction and, you know, that catches your attention more. But there's a whole lot of complication behind that type of person too.
Yeah, no, that's another huge one, is that, you know, you mentioned earlier about mistaking physical intimacy for love. And the other one, of course, is mistaking intensity for connection and not being able to distinguish between that intensity versus depth, you know, and therefore what sort of feels hot and exciting. And honestly, as I remember us discussing with you a few times, is that anxiety that comes up in dating such a guy, that we call it sometimes butterflies in the tummy and things like that. But, you know, what's something I learned from Beth actually was she said that's anxiety, you know, and that's not what love really wants for us to feel, is to be anxious in relationship. And so yeah, that's another huge point. And so I guess the really the cool part that I'd like to sort of touch on now, with that said, is I suppose the first thing to say is, you know, most of the single women who come through LBL, what they normally do is that they just get so in love with this new version of themselves that they take a decent chunk of time to just sort of to do that. And every now and then we have somebody who's just sort of making very quick shifts within themselves and meet somebody quite quickly. And if I remember correctly, with it, I think you were on week 7 maybe of in the program when you made a new connection. And yeah, so I'd love to sort of hear a little bit about that, and yeah, what is different about this connection compared to what you mentioned you were sort of stuck in the past.
Yeah. So the connection was I was also planning on not jumping back into the dating world. I've never done a dating app, and I never, you know, I was not eager to start. I wanted to ground myself and like do the whole course privately again and do all the modules and like really get really comfortable in everything. But I was out for a group dinner and just chatting socially with 8 people. A few of them I had never met before. And I can't tell you how little I was flirting or smiling. Like it was just such a normal platonic dinner table. And at the end of it, somebody said to me, "Are you single?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, that's surprising." And I did not think one thing of it. And then he found me on social media, but really the maybe concept helped me because there was no immediate like flutter and freak out and attraction and like into the night texting about when will I see you again? I just can't wait. Like none of that happened, which is kind of the pattern that I was used to. And I, like to this day, I'm kind of like, wait, do you just want to be friends? Like it's so slow and it's so patient and it's so different. It's really different. But we went out to dinner and really didn't kiss for 4 dates. And, you know, I really couldn't figure out how this was translating. It was so very, very much unfamiliar. But like, you know, you really get to know somebody. And if you're looking for the things that are on my clarity statement, like you start listening to somebody say, I was, you know, in, you know, a couple examples, I was building a cat shelter because there's a stray cat and this freeze is coming in and I'm really worried about it making it through the night, you know, or things like, you know, my brother was struggling with alcoholism. And so I was sober for 3 years with him in solidarity. Like you start picking up on things like that and saying, well, that's character. And that's the type of person that I'm looking for. And, you know, it might not like knock you off your feet with like the beginning. And by the way, he's perfectly handsome and perfectly nice, and a lot of girls would probably be knocked off their feet, but I didn't have that instant magnetism, or really that instant, like, I better run fast because this guy's coming after me and he's gonna get me if I another second. It's just a different pace, and a really different, like, kind of value system. And, one of the things in my clarity statement is I don't want somebody who just wants a physical relationship. So then, I should be very happy about, like, no kiss for, a number of dates. And, it's like, what's more obvious than that? So you start matching your clarity statement to these actions, and then, where you might pause about, like, little things that are different in your lifestyles. Like, I'm very, very social, and more social than he. Like, you start saying, does that even really matter? It doesn't really matter, because that's nowhere on my clarity statement as something that really matters to me.
Yeah.
And has anything come up where you've surprised yourself? So you've started this new thing, like you said, this is what you wanted, this was on your clarity statement. He's kind of starting to tick some boxes. Have you surprised yourself in any part of this process?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the biggest thing is that, like, I want to walk away. I graduated LBL about a month ago and say, like, I'm completely healed and I'm so transformed and I'm, like, right and everything. But, my triggers are still there. Like, there are little things that will happen that I'll be transported right back to where I was a year ago in this, like, really bad headspace. For example, the other day he said, oh, sorry, my phone died. Like, and an iPhone, the text messages are blue unless they're green, which means somebody's phone's off. And I immediately went back to, I've heard this before. Like, this is bad. This is, what's going on. And then, like, you have to calm yourself. And that's, like, your heart meditation helps. And, like, look at the facts. And there have been no facts indicating that, like, this is a womanizer, liar type person who's out to hurt me and stay, disloyal to his actions and words. And there, there's real obviousness to that. Like, he hasn't dated since May and doesn't use dating apps. Like, the facts kind of speak for themselves in a way with this. So you have to calm yourself and be okay with less communication, less, like, dates, like 1 or 2 a week. Like, it's a different, so that getting used to that, I've been surprised at myself that I'm not just fully embracing it, that I still have moments of saying, like, wait a minute, what's going on? Is this normal? Is this right?
Mm-hmm. And how did that feel when you were able to get back to that place of, you had a little freak out because it feels like you recognize this, oh, I've seen this before. And then, you're able to sort of come back to yourself, back to your center. And, what was that sort of experience?
I think you mean I had to email you, Sharif. But you told me exactly what to do, which was, like, relax, take a deep breath, get back to your heart, get back, like, center yourself, just slow down, like, stop the chatter in your mind, stop it, like, and it worked. But, it's like, I've read that your first healthy relationship after a series of toxic one is, like, maybe the hardest, because you've learned all these coping mechanisms. And honest to God, one of the thoughts that crossed my mind recently was, he hasn't reached out for 24 hours. I think somebody else has entered the picture. The conversations have gotten colder. I think I just need to get out of this. Like, I need to, and, there was a little mistaken communication where at 3 a.m. he said, wow, that was a late night or something like that. But he had woken up at 3 a.m. and written that. And I was like, what is going on at 3 a.m? And I literally had to stop myself, and my friends had to stop me from, like, pushing the block button and, like, delete and goodbye. Like, that's so severe for, like, somebody who committed no crime. So I need to use all my modules and have Sharif's email in hand. So
well, that's what those tools are there for. It's to come back to and to put into practice, and try them out as well.
But I love that so much, Rachel. Yeah, because that is really the work, isn't it? Is we finally start getting what we want. We get that. And we're like, okay, healthy relationship has a bit of space. Yeah, that's what I want. And then we have the space, and then all of our own stuff starts
Yeah,
attacking
yeah.
us.
It
We're like,
feels,
oh my God, who am I?
yeah, yeah. Like if I say, would you like to come meet a group of people I'm out with? No. I'm just going to sit here with my fire. It's so comfortable at my house. I'm like, what does that mean? What, why would you say no? It's all just learning and work in progress. And it is translating what you actually want. And I do want freedom, and I do have a big life, and I don't need somebody to be at my side all the time. And, like particularly if it's coming from a place of like jealousy and not wanting me out in the world, without supervision. Like I like this autonomy. I like this freedom. I like the trust. And it's just, getting used to the new normal. But it's these.
And just to summarize that new normal, if you had to sort of hold side by side this sort of avatar of the man that you were used to, you'd had, several experience with, different sort of men, but with that same pattern versus this guy now. And of course it's early days and, all of that. But the reason I want to highlight that is because what that is an indicator of is what's going on in you. You attract what you resonate with, and it's always a reflection of really where you are at. And so what you can do by holding up these two comparisons is really get a mirror reflection of where you are at now, and yeah, what has evolved, what has changed, what has shifted within yourself. And so if you had to hold him up compared to an avatar of the past guy, what are those main differences, would you say?
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting. For so long, I've pushed down my emotions to the point where like they are so contained and so not able to be felt. And I'm way more emotional, and I'm open and vulnerable and true to myself now. Like, and really the LBL exercises really did get me there. Just like looking at, at yourself. So forgetting a relationship, like who are you and what are your good attributes and what do you bring to the table and what do you like, remembering kind of who you are, and saying if people aren't willing to take like the whole me, then why am I trying so hard to keep them in my life? And, that kind of like rationale was good. And the striking comparison between these two, like there have been a bunch of men that I've met that are like the prior that I've met over the past month, and it's like they make me recoil. And like as soon as, and you're right, like I stopped being attracted to that. I can feel the interest in getting me to their bed, and like it's just like gross. It's like, you don't know me, and you're such an operator. And kind of once you give the no, you watch them just move on. You're not really that special after all. You can trick yourself into thinking that you're this like, that it's about you, but it's not. It's like it's gross.
Yeah. And so with with this connection that you're in now, do you feel then the kind of opposite of that, a kind of clarity, certainty, maturity? I don't know what words you might use in him that sort of differentiates him from that operator guy.
Yeah, totally. I think and like the level of like, I think he's still like evaluating, and as he should be. It's been a month. Like he doesn't know exactly everything yet. And I think like that's so wise and mature. And, why do we have to decide on the second or third date that this is the one? And I found like that's silly in hindsight. So there's just this like general like openness and interest and exploration without any of the really kind of crazy headspace that, I've been guilty of too.
Yeah, amazing. And you were saying like he was also kind of clear that he wanted, with you, he was honest about he didn't want to just date, and he wanted, he wanted a committed kind of relationship, and there's a sense of honesty, right? And I think that's probably one of the biggest things I think for women, particularly in relationship, is this sense of integrity from the man, and feeling that, because that's what makes you feel safe, right? And trust.
Yes.
You can build trust and all of those things.
Yes. We've had like plenty of conversations that, you date until it doesn't work, or you realize it's not the person, and then you break up. You're not like putting your hand into 10 different cookie jars, and like you're kind of focused and concentrating and present. And, so and I also have this like strange sense of calmness about whether the relationship lasts or not. Like, I'm going to be okay if it doesn't, because it's going to end for like not these crazy behind my back weird reasons. It's going to end for like a really legitimate, if it ends, reason that's like probably felt by both of us about, just so it feels just so different, so wildly different.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you. That's really powerful stuff. And I just wanted to highlight one thing as well for the listeners, which is, or the viewers, his honesty and your clarity, that's the mirror, that's the reflection. So that honesty that you're experiencing from him is absolutely parallel to this level of clarity that you now possess, that you now have, and of course have to practice every day, because it is a retraining of those muscles. That's a beautiful reflection of it from him, in what that says about you, and what has shifted for you. So yeah, it's really beautiful.
Amazing. Yeah, such a beautiful example, Rachel, of how to navigate that wildly crazy, volatile terrain of dating in a healthy way, or in a way that's connected to yourself, is such a beautiful example. And I wondered, Rachel, actually, if just as we bring the interview to an end, if there was any words. I know you're so good with the other women. You're so amazing on the program, the way you can support. I was wondering if there's any words of encouragement or any message you might give to any women who are watching this, who are finding themselves in a similar situation to you.
So much, but I think women undervalue themselves all the time, and hope to get chosen, and like really they need to get to a place of empowerment where really like you choose these men. Like the women in your program are all accomplished and dynamic and funny and warm, and it's like, how can there be low confidence among so many wonderful women? And kind of coming back to what they want, not just, is this person gonna stay with me? Am I good enough to keep interest? And how can I manipulate myself to become like, just stepping away from all those things. And I mean, I can't say enough about your program itself, like really understanding yourself and the relationship you want, and then manifesting and believing in it. And, you don't have to be looking. I really am. And I've heard this time and time again, you have too, everybody has, like when you're not looking, like things present itself. And then that's when, like, if you're presented with something that you weren't even looking at, that's the maybe thing. Like it was a little bit off your radar. You hadn't really thought it through, and you're not a no, and you're not a definite yes, but like, give it a try, because, really I couldn't be happier that I did.
Oh, wow.
Wow, that's such a beautiful testament to the work you've done, Rachel, and to your spirit in your heart. So perfect, isn't it?
Yeah, no, that's lovely. So beautifully put as well. And as Beth said, a reflection of your journey and what you've learned for yourself. And it's so nice to see you come to this place of real sort of stillness and serenity actually within yourself. And again, this thing of letting go of the attachment to the need to know where this is going, or the outcome and all that stuff. And it clearly makes for so much more pleasurable really experience of getting to know somebody, and also getting to know yourself as well in the process, but having started from that place of clarity. So it's been really beautiful for us to witness, and thank you for sharing this experience with the other women who there are many, as you know, who are at where you were at. I want to be where you're at now.
It's not necessarily a success story. It's 1 month into knowing somebody, but it's like, I'm in such a good place. And if it ended tomorrow, I'm going to be still in such a good place. Really, that's the turn. That's the change. That's the.
Yeah. That sounds like success to me.
Yeah, 100%. Because you're in a good place, but you're also vulnerable, because I can hear, a lot of stuff is coming up. And it's a maybe. So it wasn't like, in a way, the no and the yes are quite easy, but being in that maybe, being uncomfortable, doing things differently, showing up and being honest. So that's, it's being okay with being vulnerable, which is probably the most challenging and courageous place you could be. So, yeah.
Mhm.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much, Rachel.
Yeah, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing with us today, and for I can really feel your energy and your willingness as well to really you've been really vulnerable on the call today. You've shared with us things that aren't always easy to share, and I know that's really to be in service for the women who may be watching this. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.